Hello, this is Tootsy and it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are? Just kidding. Seriously, hello, I'm Tootsy. I love pop music and fucked up films. And today I'm reviewing the most disturbing film I have ever seen. So first of all, I'd like to thank Maximas, aka Disturbing Cinema, for giving me the chance to talk about the second thing I love the most after catchy pop songs, fucked up films. And today I'd like to talk about a movie so gruesome, so extreme. It ain't my favorite disturbing film, but it sure is one of them. I'd like to talk about Saw 3D, okay? It's Saw 3D. I said it! I know, guys, I could have talked about Martyrs, about the Human Centipede, about a Serbian film, which, yes, are all deeply transgressive films, but the thing is, those movies are indie films meant to a warm audience. Are you agreeing on that? Please say yes. My back hurts. At the opposite, Saw is a mainstream franchise from Hollywood, and it features an extreme level of sadism, not just violence, but sadism. Maybe not in the first opus, but the more its universe grows, the more graphic it gets. And I think that Saw 3D was the peak of extreme violence in mainstream cinema. So I'll give you a little bit of context here. The most informations I'll give you here are from the Nightmare University Season 1, Episode 4, A Treatise on Torture by Rebecca McKendy. A treatise, which is about the torture porn movement. 2001, a year where everything changed. The events of September 11, 2001 will bring a collective trauma. The world changed after that. National medias were full of fear and sadness. The world changed forever. After this tragedy, more and more brutal violence in mainstream medias appeared because it was real. It was in the news. This was the world we were living in. A violent world. And during this era of violence, pop culture slowly became darker and darker. A darkness observable in cinema among other medias. In 2002, we got House of Thousand Corpses. In 2003, we got High Tension and Wrong Turn, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. Those all flicks with an unusual amount of violence for mainstream cinema. And then, in 2004, we got Saw, which opened the ball. Most of people will say that Saw, first of name, was the pioneer of the torture porn trend. As mentioned before, some movies started the dance with an unusual sadism, but after Saw, it literally exploded. So we got Wolf Creek, we got House of Wax, The Devil's Reject, The Hills of Ice remake, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre prequel to the remake, which is probably the meanest film of this saga. Do you need more? Hostel 1, Hostel 2, Inside, Frontiers, Last House on the Left remake. There was so many torture flicks during the 2000s, and among them, of course, was the Saw franchise. Because yes, between 2004 and 2010, 7 Saw movies were released, becoming more and more violent, gory, and brutal. I think the wave of torture flicks really slacked in 2010, which was the release year of the 7th and last-ish movie of the da-da-da franchise, Saw 3D. So at this point, maybe you're starting to get why Saw 3D is the most disturbing movie I ever seen. But if you don't worry, we'll get there. So, Ultraviolence in movies were a thing between 2004 and 2010, so we got so much of them that at some point we kinda get used to this violence. We were expecting it by entering the cinema, but in 2010 I saw 3D, I saw Saw 3D for the first time, and I was, for the first time during this franchise, absolutely unsettled by how gory and mean-spirited it was. The traps in this movie are so sick, particularly toward women. There's a part when Jill dreams that she's trapped into Hoffman's game. It feels very gratuitous and pervert. She's unnecessarily sexualized, and it's not even a real trap. It's not essential to follow the story, but at this point I gotta say there's not much of a story. Because it focuses so much on the gore in 3D. The traps are insane, some of my favorites in the entire saga, I gotta say. The car trap scene is so fucked up, I mean, it makes me cringe and scream every time. And the final scene when the main character's wife dies from fire while she has done absolutely nothing. What the fuck? It is just so cruel, so nihilist, so mean. And this is the kind of thing we wanted to see in our screens. Torture movies were so popular at this time, it was not something really upsetting anymore. But if today a movie like that, with this amount of violence, sadism and misogynism was put on screen, we might be a little shocked, a little surprised. And I know that Saw X came out last year, and yes, it was amazing and of course super violent, but for me, not as much as Saw 3D, because let's be real, Saw X was a good movie. Saw 3D wasn't, because Saw 3D didn't care about the storyline and wanted to give the public what they were really going to see: hardcore torture. Again, not a good movie, but a concentrate of all the unimaginable violence people wanted to see at this time. And again, for me, Saw 3D was the peak of extreme violence in mainstream cinema. Again, it is a personal opinion, but I don't think any big budget movie during this torture porn era was as gore, perverted, and barbarian as Saw 3D. But if you have other titles in mind, please let me know. Because this amount of violence was one of the most popular subgenres at some point in the history of cinema, it is for me the most disturbing movie I have ever seen. So thank you guys, I hope you liked this video. If you want to listen to my music, there's a link in the description of the video. It's my last album, pretty proud of it. You can also watch the last short film I've made. It's a psychosexual horror, so you should love it. Again, link in the description. And thanks again, Max. I had a lot of fun making this video. I'm glad to be a part of your project, and sorry for the late delivery. Peace and love.